Hi there, friends. This is Weather Watchers Worldwide, where we talk about not only our local weather for Jacksonville and the First Coast, but we're looking across the country and around the world. There's lots to talk about today, from what's happening with the Olympics. We have some tropical weather to get to, and even a few spots where we're seeing some rather severe weather. So that's the number one thing here as we look ahead through today, taking a look at some of our headlines. Basically, yeah, gonna get through it here. Olympics, tropical check. Ooh, and also I forgot Science with Speta. Of course, I'm gonna talk with Eddie from Jacksonville's Museum of Science and History. We're gonna go through a couple little science experiments. It'll be a lot of fun. That's what this is all about. Not just giving you, is it going to rain today? It's not. Very dry across the First Coast in Jacksonville. High pressure is dominating. So yeah, let's talk about what's happening around the world. All right. So first off, what's going on in Europe and with the Olympics? Of course, here in northern Italy, in Milan, we have the opening ceremony tonight. Weather's looking pretty good out there right now, at least in Milan. We got temperatures 55 degrees, a little bit of snow and some increase in cloud cover, though, in the mountains earlier on today. Even caused some delays for some of the training and trial runs for women's downhill. I'll just show you some video out of Cortina, though, because they did get some decent snowfall over the last few days, which is great news, especially for the slopes out there, because, they just gonna get the groom on and flatten it all out, and then you get the good to go, especially for a lot of the jumps. I mean, of course, for Olympic sports, they don't really care about the powder, to be quite honest. A lot of the slopes are all groomed up. No one really goes off piste. This isn't the Red Bull Extreme, kind of tournaments. A lot of this is downhill, the half pipe and all that. You do want some fresh snow. They're making it on top of that. But I think the bigger thing is that for people, going to the Olympics, you spend a lot of money, you go out there, you want to go visit it, and you show up and there's no snow on the ground. It's like, well, what? Why? This right here, snow up there in the Alps, it's just beautiful. And I think for everybody attending the Olympics there in Cortina, absolutely beautiful. And I'm sure they're having a fantastic time. Taking a look at our future cast, though. Let's talk about, so right now it's 55 in Milan. Remember, this is in the lower elevations. Cortina there in the higher elevations. A lot of that snow gets thrusted uphill. So you had some of that snow this morning. As we go ahead into Saturday, still going to be seeing on and off patches. It's just that moisture getting pumped in from the south. A very deep area of low pressure off of the west coast helping to pump this around. There's another area of low pressure pushing through by Monday into Tuesday. That's going to increase rain for a good portion of the peninsula here. While any of that heads up into the higher elevations, it will cool off due to orographic lifting and snow out. So for the lower elevations, we're talking about Milan here, mostly cloudy on our Saturday. Sunday's at 52, and as I said, there's another area of low pressure coming in with increasing showers by Monday. But the good news, pretty much all of the events in Milan are indoors. We're talking about figure skating, ice hockey, it's everything that's inside. That's the big one. The outside stuff, cross-country skiing, downhill, the biathlon, which is just still how did that sport start? That's the one where they cross-country ski with a gun and then they shoot some things and cross-country ski. Absolutely fantastic. That is going to be looking pretty nice out there. In fact, partly cloudy skies. We have occasional snow moving by, but the temperatures, they get it slightly above freezing, but that's at Cortina, in the valley. Once you get up on the mountains, probably never getting above the freezing point through that extended forecast, which, the top of the ski slope versus the bottom of the ski slope, there can be a 5 to sometimes 10 degree difference just based on elevation. So this is looking inside the town, but once you get up on the slopes, it's going to be a lot cooler out there. So weather's looking great for our friends out there, doing a little A little skiing, a little snowboarding, a little winter sports, and really a big hope for everybody from the USA Olympic team, and hope they continue to do their best there. But still, on the note of cold, I do want to take you to the site of the 1989, I think. Or is it sometime in the 80s, Winter Olympics. And that's just outside of Sapporo, Japan, where yesterday we were showing you a video of the snow festival. Today I want to show you that sea effect snow machine. This video was actually sent to me from one of our worldwide weather watchers. And wow, you know what I really noticed though is in the foreground, look just how deep that snow is. Like going up to the road signs there. And this is classic Hokkaido, Japan snow. It just piles up on the cars. It is easy for you to go out in the car in the morning and there's like 2-3 feet of snow. This is one reason why I don't miss living in wintry weather, is because just to get into the car and get started for the day, you got like an hour of prep work between putting on all your clothes, going out there, shoveling, cleaning off the car, warming it up. Yeah, so there's a video out of Sapporo, though, and that is on the other side of the world. So we got Winter Olympics going on out here in Europe. We got the snow, of course, there in Japan and across a good portion of the United States. We got cold air dominating the southeast, very dry weather. But we also have some stuff to talk about in the tropics. Real quick before I get to that, I do want to show you the crew launch for a Falcon 9 Crew 12. This is not Artemis. This is the Falcon 9 rocket, which is just going up the low Earth orbit. I say just as it's to diminish it. It's not. I mean, space is hard, and they're flying at 6 a.m. on Wednesday, February 11th. So something to look out to. Sky should be clear enough you'll be able to see it, and it is just prior to sunrise. So I believe it's going to be one of those beautiful launches. And due to its trajectory, if you are in Jacksonville, you'll probably get some of those morning octulescent clouds, which are always really noctulescent, excuse me, with an N, noctulescent clouds there. It's always pretty cool to see. So we'll definitely be sharing those. Our weather watchers always look for those. All right, I'm going to go to a break here real quick, and then we're going to come back and we're going to talk about the tropics. So don't go anywhere. All right, I do want to talk about the tropics. If you've been following here in Weather Watchers Worldwide, we've been tracking a storm system in the Western Pacific. So this is still in the Northern Hemisphere. We're not even talking about cyclones in the South, but what is happening is you have a pretty decent storm out there. It was named Pena, also known as Basyang in the Philippines, but it is falling apart. And you take a look at this satellite imagery. This did come on shore as a pretty decent tropical storm off the East Coast. Wind shear has absolutely ripped it apart. If you pull back the picture, it doesn't look like the striations in the clouds there. Don't they look like they're like it's an exotic bird kind of coming off like that? You see this right here? It's almost like a peacock feathers. That is a clear indicator of wind shear. And we see this in the Atlantic as well. Winds basically coming in just like that, ripping it apart. Low level level winds coming in from the northeast with the northeast monsoon. And this is good news. I mean, it's absolutely weakening the storm system now down to 25-mile-per-hour winds. So it did make landfall as a pretty decent tropical storm with winds upwards of about 65 miles per hour. A lot of heavy rainfall, very severe flooding, especially in northern areas of that big island in the south that's Mindanao. This is out of a town called Iligan. Some people sent this to me. Bridge right there overflowing, backups. Really just a tremendous, I mean, they got well over a foot to 2 feet of rainfall in this specific spot, and it just caused water levels to rise. And a person that sent this to me said they are okay, but I have seen reports from this specific storm of at least 5 deaths at this time. And this is one we've been talking about here on Weather Watchers Worldwide the last few days. We're saying that, yeah, this is probably going to cause some very serious damage when we're talking about flooding in some of these areas where it's very mountainous, very poor deforestation techniques, or just logging techniques, I should say, creating deforestation. So when you get this heavy rainfall, it rushes right in these rivers and it causes serious flooding. Something like a very one-to-one, not one-to-one, but close comparison would be if we're talking about like Haiti in the Atlantic, which anytime we get a storm sitting over top of it, it usually results in mudslides and severe flooding. And that's the kind of the case in that area too, unfortunately. That whole system weakening out though, and they're still dealing with some pretty breezy monsoonal conditions, but at least somewhat improving out there following this tropical system. But still, they're still going to continue to see some scattered showers. The easterlies continue to dominate for that area. You might be thinking, though, okay, this is a little weird. I thought systems usually develop this time of year in the southern hemisphere. Well, if we take a look at the tropical energy, this is the amount of basically not the sea surface temperatures, but how deep the energy is in this particular basin. It is rather deep, and there's a lot of fuel out there. So if you don't have the dry air and shear that's ripping it apart right now, you could have systems develop. And we did have that for about 48 hours, and it did allow it. So already that is the second named storm system in the Western Pacific this year, which is kind of interesting. There's a La Nina in place, a weak one, which alludes to that. Hopefully this doesn't mean we're going to have more storms in the Atlantic this upcoming season, already 2 in the Westpac. But nonetheless, kind of something we're watching out there. Remember, if you are looking at tropical system development, water temperature is the number one thing. Of course, we need 80 to over 80 degrees. They do have that out there. You get those converging winds. You need an area of convection and abundant of moisture. But shear is one of the big hindrance, especially when we're talking about during the winter months when the polar front jet and a lot of drier and colder area eventually pushes further towards the south. So in that area, they kind of escaped it for a little bit, but now that shear is coming in. Meanwhile, speaking of dry air and colder temperatures, let's talk about the southeast United States, including Jacksonville. High pressure is dominating. It's absolutely in place here. And the issue with that is the wildfire risk. We got red flag warnings in place all across the First Coast. Today, it is very high. It basically, don't start a fire outside. If you got trash to burn, hold off on it. Campfires, no. Fireworks, please, for the love of goodness, please don't burn or launch fireworks. If you're excited about the Super Bowl, you want to blow something up, just don't. Come on now. Big thing is that we had that freeze last week. It killed a lot of vegetation. Then now we have low dew points. We have dry air in place. And all of that is continuing to come together and culminate into this a fire-prone atmosphere we have here on the First Coast. And that's why over the last few days, we have had multitude of wildfires. This morning, I know in Putnam County, just west of Placa, outside of Interlachen, Jenkins Elementary School, I believe it was closed because of reducing visibility. It wasn't like it was on fire, but there was a fire nearby and there was a lot of heavy smoke. And they just didn't want kiddos walking in school or waiting for the bus in this like near zero visibility, plus just breathing it in. That's not healthy. And this is, like I said, a end result of this drought that we have had as well. We didn't have any tropical systems this year in Florida. And I know at first thought that sounds great. Okay, we didn't have any tropical systems. fantastic. But the problem is we didn't even have like any side effects of tropical systems. We didn't have that kind of decent rainfall, and we haven't had much of that. In fact, rain totals overall since the beginning of September are about a foot below normal for Jacksonville, which is quite significant. So you get these exceptionally dry conditions. You get this dry air, you get a little bit of wind that just mixes up, and it results in that very significantly and highly prone atmosphere for wildfires. So just be smart. Red flag conditions in place. A lot of places do have burn bans. It's just not a smart idea to burn anything out there. Through Friday, Saturday, and Sunday, dew points continue to remain low. We do have an increase in moisture, though, as we look ahead through the mid part of next week. The dew points are going to start to pop up a little bit, and hopefully it does start to kind of taper off that fire weather danger. It's still elevated, but not quite as bad as we're seeing this weekend, which here on Saturday is still at that critical risk level. So that's going to be one of the biggest issues as we look ahead over the upcoming days. And here's a look at that extended forecast for temperatures into the 60s if we're talking about specifically Jacksonville, Florida. And then we do warm up with an increase in cloud cover. That does come with an increase in the dew points by Monday, Tuesday, and into Wednesday. And by Wednesday night into Thursday morning, we have that chance of some rainfall out there. So plenty to talk about throughout this extended outlook. I'm going to go to a break. We'll come back in just 1 second, and we're going to maybe do a little science here with you. All right, so weather is pretty much just a form of science, right? And one thing I'd love to do is a little bit of science here with some of our scientists around the First Coast, as well as teach a little bit of STEM, not just meteorology, like, oh, that's a cloud right there, but some of the physics and dynamics behind it. So I got Eddie from the Jacksonville Museum of Science and History here, and we're going to talk about, a couple little different things. One of my favorite experiments to do is elephant toothpaste. So yeah, let's get into it. Here you go. It's time for some science fun. I'm here with Eddie Whistler from the Museum of Science and History, Jacksonville, and we're going to go through and just learn about some chemical reactions and, just STEM fun, right there, Eddie?
Absolutely. So, especially focusing on something called a catalyst, I guess, with this experiment. You could go a bunch of different ways, but we have a catalyst involved, and so, you have experiments that have reactions that can drone on and happen slowly, but a catalyst is something that just speeds up the reaction. And I think we're going to be able to have a pretty good sense of speed here soon.
All right, so what I'm doing right now, though, this is hydrogen peroxide, H2O2.
Yep.
And the catalyst is going to be potassium iodide. Now, we're not adding some soap that is going to kind of add a little more spark to it. Eddie's going to talk about that in a minute.
They'll see.
All right, and that's going to be in just a moment. But first, let's just show a little bit of science. So what's going to be going on here with H2O2?
You mean after safety?
After safety. Safety first, goggles on.
So we're going to add, hydrogen peroxide is breaking down into water and oxygen, but when we add this catalyst, we speed up that reaction, and we're capable of seeing the oxygen being produced. All the bubbling that you see is oxygen being produced, and of course that reaction is being sped up by the catalyst. There's a few different ones that you can use, but we selected potassium iodide, and so that's what we saw.
All right, so let's move on, because let's get to the fun stuff here. We showed them our catalyst here, the peroxide, the potassium iodide.
The oxygen is like a genie, right? It's a genie that we're releasing. We want to capture the genie. Let's capture the oxygen. And so what we're going to do is the same experiment over, only we're going to capture it with just some basic dish soap. We want we want the dish soap to imprison our oxygen, and when we do that, we get a pretty interesting effect, and I think the folks at home are going to enjoy it. By the way, this is one of the most classic tabletop science experiments that you could do. So you look up online and find like the world record height or size elephant toothpaste experiment, and I think you'll enjoy these videos.
And you know, speaking of that, so we're using 35% hydrogen peroxide. This stuff you need to like buy at a chemical store, where all the protective equipment. But there is kid-friendly stuff using yeast and 3% hydrogen peroxide. So basically stuff you can find on your house, do it with your parents, and you can see a very similar reaction, but it's not gonna be as big as that. All right, so we have 2 cups of water here, and we're gonna mix the potassium iodide into this. It's crystallized, so that's why we want to dilute it in a little bit of water.
Yummy.
And now while Eddie's doing that, I'm gonna pour this hydrogen peroxide into these beakers. Eddie, is there anything new going on over at the Museum of Science and History recently?
So, we have Planetarium Night Live coming up on April 14th.
Ooh.
Where you can come in and we can talk about what it is that we human beings know about, in this particular case, the galaxies. And so we know so much about these storms of stars that are out there just spinning around in space. And when you bring it onto a 60-foot dome overhead and we're able to see how these things function, you're mesmerized by just the immensity of our universe. And so that's what I do every day, talking about space and science with folks inside of the planetarium.
And that's just all going back to science and STEM, right?
Yes.
Very, very exciting. Absolutely love this. All right, so you mentioned that something about the soap, and it's got to kind of grab the catalyst. So we want to put soap in here, right?
So we want to add our soap into the water right here.
You said it's the prison, so it captures it. So when the foam kind of gets produced, it produces the foam, right?
Yeah, this oxygen, once we get that hydrogen peroxide breaking down from our catalyst into water, H2O, and oxygen, O2, we're just gonna capture all that O2, and you'll see how that happens right here with trillions of little tiny prisons for all of the oxygen that we're about to produce.
All right, you ready here, Eddie?
Yep, make sure to step back
Sweet.
after we pour it in. 1, 2, 3. Wow.
Oh, there we go.
Yeah, there we go.
And there's that. That's the reaction. So,
You can see the steam too. It's an exothermic reaction. So the heat is exiting the reaction. You always talk about what the heat is doing, because in science, in the universe, there's no such thing as cold. There's more or less amounts of heat, but you can see it's releasing all of this heat. As promised, we're just capturing molecular oxygen inside of just all of these little prison cells. Thank you, soap.
showing us some science. Thank you very much, Eddie, for doing this.
You're welcome.
Yeah, if you want to find out more about this, if you want to find out how you can do this at home as well, check out firstcoastnews.com. We're going to have all of the ingredients there for you. Yeah, a little fun science time here.
Brush an elephant's tooth.
Oh, yeah.